Hi everyone, my name is Megan Tunerman. I'm going to be a junior at the college this year for this fun and exciting first semester. I'm here today talking with Professor Singh. Professor, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Certainly. Hi. Thanks, Megan. Hi, everybody. My name is Rohini Singh. I am now entering, my fifth year at the College of Worcester as an assistant professor of communication studies. I study political language and persuasion. So in our department, we call that political rhetoric. And specifically, I study visual politics and the rhetoric and politics of Southeast Asia.
Perfect. Well, first, I just want to say thanks for talking with me today. Of course, because of the pandemic, it's made hybrid learning a necessity in Worcester classes, which is something that Worcester hadn't really done before.
Mhm.
And so, I know as a student, families, everyone, we kind of, are a little nervous. We want to know what's going to look like. And so
Sure.
I just kind of wanted to first ask, what are your thoughts on online learning? And, as a student, what to expect? Can it be just as effective as in-person teaching? How might it be a little bit different? Things like that.
Absolutely. And the thing that I like about Worcester and Big Brothers community is that we rise to the occasion. So, all right, we can look at something that has become a necessity, online learning, and think, all right, how can we do what we do best with it? So for me, for example, there are some things that work really well online. Right? There are some things, for example, like group work. Normally, right, I have the whole class assembled and there's 20 or 30 of us, and you can break out into little groups. Of course, you can do that in person. What I found is really nice, and I'm going to be doing with my classes come this fall, is that I'm going to only meet with half of the class for half of the class time. And in class, so just 25 minutes, 10 people. We're all going to be like a small seminar, and it can get even smaller if I put them into smaller groups, where we just have this focused time working on one case study. And then they leave magically and not physically having to leave a classroom, but they just X out of that meeting. And then the other half of the class comes in for the other 25 minutes, right? And then we do, again, another assignment for them, another case study. So what I've learned to appreciate is how some things are actually much easier with online learning, how it also makes you realize that, it's just harder to be engaging when you are online. Sometimes I find like the threat of me physically being there in class and looking at the students makes sure that they're listening, or at least that they're pretending to. And so what that means is that I have to do more, which I'm looking forward to as a professor, to be engaging the whole time. And that means speaking for a shorter amount of time, having much more time where students get to process and work even collaboratively with each other. So in my class, students are going to be taking notes, on what's happening in class, or a class if they're working in groups, and they're going to project what they're doing and what they're thinking up on the projector, so everybody can see everybody else typing, right? And that's something that sort of naturally is going to happen much better online, so we can start to see what each other is thinking, even before they've said a thing, right? Because they're all typing at the same time. So I do think that there's something about gathering online that, as odd as it feels, does allow you to do a lot more of that feeling of community, just in a different way. Um, and I'm looking forward to that a lot as well.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. I mean, the Worcester community is something that is so important.
Mhm.
And exactly like you said, it's kind of hard sometimes to feel like you have that same interaction online. But the relationships between students and faculty is so important. And so, um, you know, that seems like a really great way to kind of make sure that those relationships are maintained, and even to foster relationships between students, which is really nice. Um,
Yeah.
and so you kind of already covered this, but just, a little more in detail.
Mhm.
Um, what can students be just as excited and eager to learn, even though every session might not take place from a classroom? What are you
Mhm.
doing to, beside those, deeper connections to really engage students?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are two different things. And one, and I'm sure I don't speak for myself on this regard, but all faculty, that this has been an unusual summer for more than just the reason of the pandemic, right? There have been uprisings and uh, advocacy around the issue of racial justice. There have been horrific events in other countries, right? There have been many, many, many things that have combined to make the summer of 2020 quite a summer. And, our students, coming from the wide range of backgrounds, families, and experiences that they have, everyone's going to have in some way or another, I think emerged a little changed from summer 2020 in different ways. And one thing that I'm thinking about as a professor is how to incorporate that into my classes to increase the engagement between the students with the course material, but also the students and myself, right? This isn't business as usual, right? And I think for me, it has come from, for example, linking a lot more of the content in my courses. They were already, it's a communication class. It can't not talk about what's happening in the world, but to link it even closer. So in my visual rhetoric class, we're doing a lot of more case studies on the Black Lives Matter protests, for example, right? Or images of healthcare workers in other countries, as well as in the United States. So meeting students where they are, right? Because they're going to emerge, they're going to come onto this new learning experience, but they're going to think, hey, this isn't a walled off experience, right? Isn't that we had summer and now we're doing fall and those are different worlds, right? They're related. So one thing I think to increase student engagement, frankly, with each other and myself is through the material and is through the conversations that we're going to have in our classes. And that does not change whether we're in person or online, but it has affected the way that I've thought about including even stacking certain case studies and assignments to speak more to events that took place in summer. And the other is, in a more informal way, I found that, having to go online means that I maybe make an effort to share certain parts of my life with my students that I would not normally do as much when we're in person, but because I want to reach across the digital divide. So, even if it's something like in Teams in our class chat every Friday saying, happy Friday, everybody, here's a picture of the absolutely useless syllabus on my desk because my daughter colored over it in marker, and it is what it is. Thankfully, we're going digital now, so that won't happen anymore. She also colored over my monitor, but life goes on. So, and taking a picture of that and sharing it with the class and just saying, hey, just to let down a little bit of that, that divide that sometimes happens between us.
Yeah, no, and that sounds, I think that's exactly, I know as a student, those moments are always really great and really do, help create those relationships. And,
Mm-hmm.
I'm more excited now. So thank you so much. I really appreciated this. Do you have any kind of last words for students, families, people that are, still a little bit nervous?
Mm-hmm. The last words I'd say is we're all working very hard to make sure that you have a good experience here. And, it will be different, but at Worcester, we have never, ever thought that different is bad and that different is dangerous. Different is always full of possibilities. And it'll be good different, right? It won't be the same old, and that's a positive thing. And that's something that I'm saying to you, but it's also something I've been saying to all my students all summer as well.
Perfectly said. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Megan.